better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, Rob. Are you interested, can I interest you in ultraviolet? I mean, not ultraviolence, ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet.
It's one of my favorite hobbies along with drinking milk.
One of my very favorite movies about fighting vampires with swords. Not my favorite, though, because there are a lot of movies about fighting vampires with swords. But it's up there.
Blade 2, Blade Trinity.
Underworld 2.
Underworld.
Rise of the Lycans. Yeah.
Today we're talking about... Yeah, there are a lot of, people like fighting vampires with swords. But today we're talking about something even better than that.
Even cooler, if you can believe it.
Oh, man, I really love this book. We're talking, without burying the lead anymore, Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City, the 2E version, to be specific.
This is Dungeon Master of None, and I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt, and yeah, this is, in my opinion, general opinion, like a masterpiece by Luka Rejec. I don't know, a real master of writing role-playing game books.
An auteur?
An auteur.
Yes.
It's like fun to read. It's beautiful to look at, and it's got amazing design for like a bunch of different things, but specific one type of campaign that we're going to talk about.
We'll talk about like what this is and what's in it because it's a lot, but if nothing else, this is a work of art. And we've talked about a couple of different TTRPG books that I think fall into this category, and it's not a large number, but it's also there's more and more often I think that there are a few of these. I think that like Zephyr fell into this category, but there are a few people out there who are great artists, great designers, great writers who are the triple threat as it were, and putting out books like this. And Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City is absolutely one of them. It is in a class of its own. It's utterly it's its own thing.
It's a work of art in that it's a cool poster that you have on your dorm room wall while you're listening to the Grateful Dead, and it's something like some cool thing you found at a vintage store that's like a throwback 70s retro futurist vibe.
Yeah.
Something by Mobius.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful piece that we treasure and you will treasure as well.
It's going to be hard to describe it. We'll talk about, bits and pieces, but like the vibes are powerful. Like there's a very distinct aesthetic to this, which I think is really cool. Hopefully you like it. If you love the 1970s animated film, heavy metal, if you like the works of Mobius, if you enjoyed the recent animated series Scavenger's Reign, you'll probably like this book. If you like science fantasy, Dying Earth, if you like Vance, but also if you like the Oregon Trail, if you enjoy
it's not hard to describe at all. It's Acid Trip Oregon Trail.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at its core, and it's interesting because this is a setting book, but it's not because it's a real light touch, right? There's a lot of things in here, but it is not exactly like a campaign setting. It's technically, I would describe it as like an adventure. Like it's a point crawl, but it's very like loosely presented. Like it's not, go here, do this. Here's a plot hook. It's just like, here's these points. Here's this setting. Here's a rough suggestion for how to traverse them.
I wrote down the opposite thing of you as my notes, but I think we mean the same thing. I wrote down, this is not an adventure. It's just a loose setting point crawl. Like, it's not an adventure. There's no, like, plot here.
Right.
The players create the plot. And then even the settings, like even the points on this Acid Trip Oregon Trail, need a ton of fleshing out, which you will do as the game master. But it's so easy to do because it's so well written and evocative.
Right. And that's what I do think we agree. And that's what I mean is like, it's not a campaign setting because it's not, it doesn't really like give you everything that you need for a campaign setting. There's so much that you need to fill in a good way, but it's exactly in the same way. It's not also an adventure because there's the the elements, sort of like maybe the framework of it, but you have to do a lot of the filling in yourself. And it makes it, in my opinion, really easy. But yeah, it's worth noting that this is a book that is going to require some, I don't say work because that makes it sound hard. I don't think it would, but some investment from you. You will have to read and plan and think and fill in some stuff. But it's a lot like other books we've mentioned. It's a lot like Stonehell or The Dark of Hot Springs Island is the one that I thought of the most, in that you're given all the tools that you need, but you have to do some of the labor yourself.
Right. Like The Dark of Hot Springs Island teaches you how to build a hex crawl by doing most of the work for you and then teaching you how it works. This book teaches you how to do a point crawl with like travel between the points. And unlike a hex crawl, there is more work to be done once you've created the points with a point crawl, right? Like a hex crawl is tight enough. Hexes, by definition, like have to be small and they connect to 6 other things, that once the players enter that, unstable situation, things start cascading. The point crawl, you have more freedom as the game master to kind of like plan things out, because my players are here. I'm planning stuff for the next session at this point, and then eventually they can get to these other 3 points. Those are will all start fleshing things out next, and that's like all you got to do. And we can talk about like more how to run this later. Just like what is in it. It is a massive point crawl.
Right.
It is 32 points between an area known as the civilized lands, where what are they called? The state trap, the princes of the civilized land rule with their purple cats, horned cats, and the Black City, like the end of the world, right? And between them, there's adventures to be had and money to be made and things to be discovered. And your players can build a caravan and for their own reasons, profit, exploration, gain, another quest that you've decided to layer on top of this, move between those points. Probably farther away from the civilized lands and probably closer to the Black City.
It's a big caravan. It's just a big, like we said, Oregon Trail, except you're probably theoretically going to go back and return some goods. It's a trade run, but you start at the top of the world, the needle of the world, and the Circle C in the Violet City, which we'll talk about in a minute. And there's all these other cities around that which are barely described at all. The Emerald City, which is run by a coalition of bureaucrat mages and accountant warrior priests, and like the Red Lands, which are some kind of anarchist dwarf collective. But
dwarf standing for like a backronym.
Yeah, that's like
for,
good.
Like emancipated workers or something. They're part of the Association of Self-Help Collectives.
That's right. That's right. But none of that matters. None of that's important.
Well, but all of this will be detailed in a forthcoming publication by Luka called, I think, like The Golden Age or The Golden Circle. Our Golden Age, right? So
funded at $500,000. Very excited.
Nice.
We'll link it.
Oh wait, that might be the prequel book, like during or after this kind of post-apocalyptic setting. I think he's also said he's going to do a Circle C civilized land.
I actually was reading
game.
this,
or maybe they're the same thing.
He's being really cagey about whether or not it's a prequel or sequel or anything.
Yeah, it could be either.
Yeah,
it could be either. And this is the great thing that we have to mention about 2 more things about UVG, which is one, like a lot of, there's so many hooks as to what you want to like do for what's going on here, what's the history, what's the relationship, but it's all left up to you. It's a very anti-canon book.
Yes.
And 2, it's in the like post-apocalypse, right? It's not like, oh wow, things are shitty. It's like, well, things have been like this for a long time. We're all just kind of vibing here.
Yeah.
Things are just weird.
There's the long ago, and then there's the long ago, and then there's the present. And so there's it's your standard science fantasy. You're on top of the ruins of a civilization that are on top of the ruins of another civilization, and there's weird science fantasy robots everywhere. and some of them are hostile and some of them are not. And there's all kinds of bizarre biotechnology and magitech, and it's over countless generations, it's created truly bizarre things. And then you have to take your caravan through it and deliver some, I don't know, foodstuffs to some insane space priests at the gates of the Black City, and then go home.
Or you decide, screw that. Let's
right.
make a lot of money delivering aphrodisiac clams from the water
That's
people. Right. They're also called cold voles.
Cold vomes,
and we're going to take those to the Spectrum satraps, who, of course, as we all know, are mad priests, ascended psychics of pure energy who live in little plastic robot bodies.
The porcelain, what are they called?
The porcelain princes?
Porcelain princes, that's right.
There's the porcelain princes, the Spectrum satraps. There's all kinds. So here's the other thing is, like, because these points, they're related to each other, but like within a point, there's usually like a couple factions or a weird thing to explore. Like, these are ripe for like using as inspiration for your own games, or just like, I really like this one cool idea.
Yeah.
Well, then take that.
This is also pound for pound, like in terms of ideas per page, like one of the most dense books I have ever read. Just like every single point has a bunch of like insane hooks that could be a campaign all of their own, and which I think is great. It's kind of wild, like a bunch of this stuff you're like never even going to remotely, like you're not guaranteed to come across any of these things. Like as you're approaching a point, you're theoretically rolling on tables to find out like what you find. And
it's a certain type of game, and it's, I think why it works and why it's like such a great work of art is because this entire book came from the vision of one person, from every drawing to every table. And it definitely, because of that, it doesn't suffer. But it is in one particular game mastering style. Yeah. Which I would call come up with cool things and then wing it, right?
Yeah.
Which I think works at my table with my style some of the time, so maybe that's why I'm predisposed to like it. But it seems like Luka's style is like, I have some cool ideas, and I trust my players, and they trust me enough that we'll figure out what happens once they start interacting with those cool ideas, and I'm quick on my feet enough I can come up with some interesting obstacles or things and describe the situation out from that point of a cool idea. So if that's your style of GMing, like, you could use this book like as is to run a cool science fantasy point crawl. If that's not your style of GMing, then you got to do some more work.
Well, we'll talk about this. We've talked about this before. You know, I also like this style of GMing. It works well for me to build out a bunch of points and a bunch of interesting hooks and then see what my players do. This helps me deal with the stress of GMing by not expecting my players to do any given thing and just sort of preparing to adapt to like whatever they decide is interesting. But even if you are somebody who prefers more structure, there's a lot that you can do with this book. And we'll talk about how you would do that. But as written, as built, yeah, it's like, here's a bunch of stuff. Let your players bounce off of it, which, like we've just said, I think it's fun, but it is not for everybody. But there is still a lot to work with here, even if you're trying to build a more structured campaign.
If your GMing style or your play style is not, if you can't take a table of what happens when the players enter the forest of meat and eat meat or eat the great like willow creature at its center, then you can use this book as like a starting off place and like do your prep from there. Right. Yeah. Which is, I think, the other way to use it. Like, okay, here are cool ideas. I'm going to look at the table, pick the best one, build out more stuff from that.
We haven't mentioned the system because it's not important, but
it's
briefly
not important. Absolutely.
Very briefly, just know that it's designed to be system agnostic. It comes with a very light OSR style, like a one page. Here's how it works. It's the synthetic dream machine system. I think it's great, but it's not unlike any other like old school revivals. You could play this with Shadow Dark or Cairn or old school any old school essentials.
Old school essentials, yeah.
Which is great.
It's a D20 roll high, right? And if that's like, I thought that was all games, then this is the perfect book for you.
That's right.
Because that's what this book is. I will say that Synthetic Dream Machine, the system, if you want like a more full system, is available for a free PDF for download. Yeah. So if you're like, oh, this one page sounds really good, then go for it. Download the full PDF.
And what I love about this book, and what I am increasingly interested in when I'm reading books like this, is you could run a game with just this book. It does have everything that you need, but you could also run it in a different system. You could just take pieces of it. You could adapt part of it. It's very, very flexible. It is, like Matt said, it's like anti-canon. It's very rules light. By the way, I've started running a Daggerheart campaign in the Motherboard campaign frame, which is also science fantasy-ish, and I'm just gonna grab some stuff.
Yes.
Ultraviolet Grasslands is a little bit more gonzo, I think, than the Motherboard setting, but I'm still gonna steal and that's the thing is that is so easy. I was rereading this and I was like, oh, I could just grab that, make up some stats and plunk it in somewhere, and that's what's like so great about this book. I think it would also be great just to run it as is. Use the rules light system, throw it at your players, keep it simple, use their neat little system for building a traveler and go. But that's what I think makes this book so popular and so enduring, is you can do both with it.
Here's the cool thing is it's really, as Rob described, a pick and choose as much of the ingrained Electric Dream Machine system as you want, right? NPCs are described by their level, right? You can think of that as okay, how many levels do they have? How many hit dice or something? How tough they are overall? And by just a bunch of adjectives, right?
Sometimes a single word.
Floating jellies.
Yeah. I love this.
Positive vibration ghost. Level 4, soothing.
Yes, I love this.
You can put that into Knave or old school essentials or D&D 5e, and boom, you've got your stats for this. And same with character creation. Yeah, you could make characters in this system, or you could make them in another system, Mutant Year Zero, and then just roll on some of the cool tables of traits and connections that are here. You could use your own rules for making a caravan, or you could use the 10-page section on how to build vehicles for your caravan, how to do trading and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that system staples onto anything.
Something else that I really like that this book does is that Rejec will just drop in a quest or a dungeon or a more detailed hook. Not every section has it isn't as if every point has a quest and a dungeon, but there's a few sprinkled here and there, which I really like, because they can be taken and left or moved around or adjusted, and they give you a suggestion for how it might look. If there were one for every single section, that would make this book, it's already not a short book, but I really like this. It helps to me give an idea of what a quest might look like, or what a dungeon might look like, or what a faction might look like, but leaves a lot of room for interpretation with the rest of the book. It's a neat little introductory quest with a werepug in the first town.
The werepug, yes. With the town ruled by cats.
Yeah, Vorgo the werepug. Yeah.
It's also just, to me, fun to read.
Yeah.
Right? I've flipped to a random page. There's some beautiful art. The title says, Cross the Flesh, Warm Mantle. The mantle of the near moon is still live. 100 meters thick layer of fleshy void organism with crystal endoskeleton planes, pillars, struts, and spines, and exoskeletal plates of nickel iron compacted by the coagulated dust and boulders of the crust. The massive creature moans and trembles, surviving on the heat of the nuclear fires of the core, tortured by the stuck force lines of thread and that shear and trap it, ruined biomechanical artifacts of a much earlier time lodged in its compressed flesh like pearls. So cool.
This is a great example of what I was just talking about, because Matt is reading a bit from the section on the near moon, which is a moon that is, well, it's near. It's been captured, and it's just sort of like hovering above, like 10 feet above the grasslands. It's one of the points. It's also a mega dungeon. You can jump up and land on the surface of the near moon. If your players are industrious enough, they can get inside. The mantle is a giant void beast that Matt was describing, and you have to climb your way through its flesh. It's being consumed by nuclear-powered stone people slowly, and deep inside there's like incredibly valuable crystals that are worth enough to like crash the entire economy of the grasslands if you bring enough out. And they're
also the control rods for a rocket ship that you could use to blow up the moon or take it into space.
That's right. You could blow up the moon. You could take it to space. You could awaken the void beast. I loved. This might have been my favorite part of the whole book, because it's like here's a mega dungeon, here's what you need to run it, but it's presented so loosely that you can really approach it in kind of like any way you want. I love a mega dungeon. I am getting tired of looking at maps of mega dungeons, so I was like, great, just tell me the rooms and I will put them in the order that I feel like. And I really liked that. And also, it was a floating moon with a gigantic void creature in the mantle and crystals, and also a rocket ship.
It is so good. The near moon, which is described in, Rob is absolutely correct in Bang for Your Buck. 10 pages of this section. We could spend the whole episode
on the near
about
moon,
how just this is such a great designed point in your point crawl.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 32 of these.
Most of them aren't, to me, quite as rich as the near moon, but but they are pretty close. There's each of these. You're not going through a lot of civilization, right? You leave the Violet City, which is one of the cities on the pole, run by sentient cats. But everywhere else is kind of an outpost or even like a nomad camp. But each of them has so much going on, so many NPCs, so many hooks, so many things of great significance to the world and to your players, potentially, if they engage with it. You could spend countless hours, I think, at any of these points.
You may end up, falling through one of the dreaming gods and spending 6 sessions modifying its dreams to change reality, or you may just pick up some new supplies at this point and go on to the thing that your players are more interested in, heading over to the ribs of the father or the glass bridge. Some of the points are laid out real traditional OSR style, where it's hey, there's 3 factions at this point. They're all in this unstable relationship. I wonder what will happen when the player characters arrive. That kind of stuff that we know and love. And others are just full of weirdness.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Some of them have, I guess I would describe, a standard, here's a thing to go and a dungeon to explore or a bad guy to engage with. But a lot of it is just here's a weird thing. It's weird. What are you going to do with this weird thing? There's not always a good answer or even any answer, which is, to me, great.
Having the null answer for a lot of weird things, right? Maybe not as the default, but as a thing that comes up not infrequently, is a great way to illustrate how unknowable this science fantasy magitech stuff is. And even if it's you get a nothing answer from investigating this thing, you probably still gain something, some kind of resource or, whatever. But it's
lots
just
of stuff
so many weird
has
things.
Potential value. It's also, some things are just, this is a weird thing.
This book makes me jealous, right? When I read it, I wish I my brain worked where I didn't have to like spend all day like looking at stuff to come up with something as cool as one of the entries on this table to throw at my player characters. But the great thing is this book exists, so I can just flip to it when I need something that's weird science fantasy for my players. It's just so cool.
This is clearly the output of a very well read and creative mind. It's also, listeners, like rich with, I would describe them as references, like winks and nods. When you get to the Black City, it says, Godspeed you, Black City. There's one of the options for the quarterlings, which are not halflings, but quarterlings, is described as a sexually shoeless god of war. The entry for dagger says it's a cult classic. Get it? There's a section that what it says when measuring distances, it's like how far somebody might take a cow to trade for a handful of beans. Again, this might take you out of it. I enjoyed these are just the references that I got, by the way, and just like one after another. I don't want to make it sound like it's all like pop culture references or inside jokes, but it is as we like to say on this show, it is a rich text. There's a lot going on. It rewards rereading. It rewards close reading. It
rewards continuing to read it.
Yes.
For me, that's what kept me reading it. It's entertaining to read.
Yeah. Here's just I'm just looking at a random page. What you might find at Cerulean 5 Oasis. Here's one of the random Oasis characters, Micah, level 2, Alchemancер. He's an Alchemancер. I'm already like, what am I going to do with this Alchemancер? Like that's such a rich font of possibility.
Yeah. It's written in a way where every sentence, every bullet point in a table is begging you as the game master to take a little tidbit and run with it and come up with some more stuff. And that's why I love it. It's also like a great case study in how to make science fantasy or just really fantasy unique in your own flavor. For example, one of the points is controlled by the porcelain princes, and they're powerful enough that their reach can be felt throughout a good third of the points. They're not quite liches, and they're liches that extend their life by just copying their mind to multiple
their consciousness
people
through multiple bodies.
And so when one of them dies, they're picking up new ones all the time. And some of them have 100 bodies and they get really weird. And some of them have 5. And it's you've taken the perfect concept of immortality that's in fantasy, made it weird in sci-fi, and where it's going to be interesting to your players. And there's a dozen examples of stuff like this.
Yeah. Wherever you would find a weird monster, you will find a weird monster in Ultraviolet Grasslands, but it's a self-replicating serpent ferret robot that wants to find and kill its master, or wants to consume only a certain type of crystal, and it's still a monster. Your players still maybe have to find it and fight it, but it's just so much more interesting than what you encounter in a standard fantasy campaign. It is recognizably similar, right? The structure, and I think that's what one of the things that makes this game work is that it's still a point crawl. It's still an OSR game. It's still got, and there's a lot of lamp shading of this, but there's still elves and dwarves and half orcs and all of that.
The joke about changing orcs to half orcs was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll save that for the readers. But no, it's still got all of those things. You can use 5e for it. You can use something weird for it. It's so good. And there's not just ghosts. I flipped to a random page. There's instead of a ghost, there's the great ghost of light, wafts a lonely veteran of some intercosmic war. A cetacean behemoth of focus and reflected light in a shell of entropy and frustration, right? Your ghost isn't a ghost. It's a space whale ghost veteran.
That's right. the ghosts in this are often time lost or radiation shadows or static resonances. It reminds me of Gradient Descent in Mothership, which we reviewed, where the ghosts were usually like holograms imbued with people's personalities who had died. But they're still spooky ghosts, and they're still there, like causing mischief and problems.
Gosh, there's so much cool stuff here. There's also, using this book is great because not only do you get a map of all the points, but when you buy the book, or for free, you can get a PDF of the map of all the points so you can see them in one page. There's also a glossary of all the like weird creatures and new terms that you can look up at any time. There's also like a D100 table of creatures and items and NPC names and personalities and stuff like that.
I've refrained from talking about it because we talk about it all the time, and I didn't want to like gush immediately, but there's so many tables, Matt. There's so many tables, tables of goods, tables of weapons, tables of people, tables of horrible ailments that might happen to your players, tables of events, tables of locations. I love it. It just so many cool, like randomly generated outcomes. We love a good table, and these tables are good.
I also have to say, if there's one style to this post-apocalyptic fantasy, it's one of assumed neutrality and non-violence. Most of the things don't immediately, that are not like environmental, don't immediately want to eat you. They seem to be like there to see what you do, and then maybe they want to eat you. But of course, by eat you, we mean like subsume your consciousness into their own in a thing that takes seconds, but for you and subjective time, it will take centuries. Something like that. So there's lots of deadly and crazy things here, but it's, I think, not default design that you're going to hack your way through the grasslands.
There's a lot of these random encounters that can go either way, right? That they don't necessarily need to be hostile. They can be appeased. They're, a dangerous but wild creature, and so it's not like inherently going to try to attack you. The like main exception is the VOMEs, the violent machines, which there's always like a handful of them in every place, and you run into those, they're going to try to kill you, but everything else is you can kind of make your way with, which is cool. It definitely gives the impression of a very dangerous and wild place, but not one that is inherently hostile. I love this about settings like this, but like a lot of the things that will kill you or cause you like immense misery, don't care. That's just like, that just happens to be like the unfortunate outcome of you stumbling into that place.
You're in the meat forest and you're made of meat. Sorry.
Yeah. Should have thought of that before you went to the meat forest.
And I mean, it's also in that like OSR style, there are incredibly powerful things that are not gated by level. It's not whoa, when your players reach the level 17 Dream God, they'll be level 17. No, they might be level 2 still. I will say that it is designed as such that later on, the chance of things that just want to eat you and destroy you is much higher at the end.
Yeah.
And also, your traveling gets reduced the further you go because of the purple haze that floods this valley at earlier and earlier times the farther east you go.
Yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah, there's a purple haze that makes it hard to see, and like the closer that you get to the Black City, the worse the purple haze is.
And if that wasn't enough, there are like motorcycle / other creature riding step nomads that also smoke pot. So,
That's right. Oh yeah, I mean, you start out in the Violet City, one of my favorite locations. Yes, it is ruled by psychic sentient cats, and there's lots of drugs you can do, and there's lots of great rules for doing drugs and getting stoned with your cat friends. And there are carousing rules like in Shadow Dark or in Mothership, like classic. Here's what to do with your experience, or here's how to spend your money to get experience. But it's real like wild and debaucherous in Ultraviolet Grasslands. You're doing bizarre drugs with strange creatures from, God knows where. The section is called Civilized Debauchery in Shades of Purple. I loved this.
Yes. I'll also say this book is great, not just if you want to read something that's a work of art, or if you want cool inspiration for science fantasy, but if you want to learn how to like structure a point crawl, the balance of different types of points, of how to like describe the areas between the points and add random flavorful encounters to the traveling, and then like how to space things out. Oh, this is the travel times are listed in weeks of travel, and then there's a caravan system for what can happen to you in a week, what sort of resources you consume, that kind of stuff. Like, hey, if you're like, whoa, the hexes are not really for me. I like points and I like longer journeys between them. This book teaches you how to do that.
Yeah, we should talk about the caravan system, because even if you're not interested in this heavy metal, psychedelic, acid trip, science fantasy, I think the caravan system is really good. And we've talked about a number of games that either had an opportunity for something like a caravan, or we would have liked a better system for a caravan. And I really like the one that they have in Ultraviolet Grasslands. It's not complicated like everything else in the book, but it's, basically your caravan gets a character sheet. There's pretty simple rules for how many supplies you need to carry. There's a bunch of great random tables for things that'll happen on your journey. There's a bunch of different cool vehicles and other forms of storage and conveyance that you can use. I really like this. You could borrow big chunks of this for almost any system where you're doing a big overland journey, and take away the stuff you don't like and still use it. I think this is a really good section.
And unlike other rules systems for caravans, this one includes 2 pages for like, here are some example quests to generate within the caravan, and here's what you do. Okay, we gave you all these rules for like repairing your vehicle and keeping track of food supplies. What if you run out? Instead of just being like you starve or your vehicle breaks down, you can't go anymore. How do you turn that into something interesting happening? Here's what you should do next, right?
I also really liked they have an example, like here's a basic caravan that you might have, and then a bunch of short descriptions of other types of caravans that you might encounter. Everything from a war band to a dungeon expedition. This is really great, again, for providing ideas and structure for your own players and your own caravans. Yeah. There's a whole list of financiers. I really liked this too.
What horrible decadent member of the Purple City are you indebted to?
Yeah.
So for the game master, this system, I think, assumes that you're going to improvise, or before the session, take the cool stuff and plan out some extra NPCs and what's going to go on here and what do these people want beyond their one-word adjective. It also, I think, assumes that the players and the caravan are going to come up with weird things they're interested in.
Yeah.
Right? And those don't necessarily, and by players coming up with things, I don't mean players reading the book and coming up with a backstory of like, I must go to the ribs of the father. That's where my ancestors are from. No. Like, they'll come up with things that they're interested in through play. Right?
Yeah.
So that is part of the assumption. I think this book is really good at hanging out things that players want to invest themselves in, or even through the dangers and hazards of the world. Oh no, you got infected with a VOME like implant that makes you better at some things, but its code is like malfunctioning. Maybe you want to go over here so you can enhance it, or figure out more about what it does. Like, all these things will lead your characters to a new spot.
I want to make a point about something, in that there's a ton of description and a lot going on, but you're not given sort of like a description of any city or any village in great detail. You're not really like given like a list of areas necessarily. Sometimes there's a chart or a table of various spots within a point.
Yeah, I think the only city that has a map is the Porcelain Citadel. So it's like 1 out of 32 points.
So like if you plop your players down, you're gonna have to do some. You the GM, but also your players are gonna have to do some work to figure out like what's going on. If you're just like, well, you're in the Violet City, they're gonna be like, well, what's that? And you're gonna have to be like, well, it's, here's some things that are there. Here's some things you might encounter, but it's not like another setting book where you could like read a description and say in the purple spectrum district, there's 7 brothels and, 4 general stores, which again, none of this is a problem for me, or as far as I'm concerned, like with you. But I read a couple of like reviews of this and people were like, what do I do? And like they try to like just like present this to their players and they were like, well, they weren't like biting. And that's, if you don't properly prep for this, if you don't present your players with some sort of impetus, then yeah, they're going to maybe just like be like, well, I don't get what's going on here. Let me read the Violet City description as a way of example. This is the end of the right road. Humanity's dominions wind down in the purple haze that wreathes the sunrises of this western reach. No roads, but caravans brave the ultraviolet grassland into the eternal sunset of the Black City. Porcelain princes and spectrum satraps oversee great herds of biomechanical burden beasts that bring the odd fruits, black light, lotus, indigo ivories, rainbow silks, and sanguine porcelains popular among the meritocrats of the Rainbow Lands. Many voyagers are taken by the VOMEs, but nobody likes to talk about those lost to the Ultras. The Violet City is a place of trade, luxury, magic, and poverty. The thralls of the cat lords keep a veneer of order, barely hiding the feline sneers at the rulers of the metropolitan bean counters and inquisitors.
This
terrific, but
this is so good.
It does kind of raise more questions than it answers, right? Like there's a whole bunch of both like proper nouns and words that like you will have to look up and don't make any sense until you're a little bit more familiar with the setting. Like I said, this is a book that rewards close reading and rereading. And if you've read it and you read the glossary and you come back, you'll know what's going on and you'll be able to answer those questions for your players. But this is not something that you can easily just present without some preparation.
Right. This is by default, right? If there are 2 styles of GM, jugglers and tower builders, this is for as is jugglers. DMs, right? You're just throwing cool stuff out there, and then you're going on the fly, and you're keeping things moving, and you're moving people on to the next one, and you explain a little bit, and then when they come back to it the second time, you explain a little bit more. You just keep the balls moving, right? If you're like a tower builder, and you're like, you gotta know who these meritocrats are, right? Then you're gonna have to take this and do some planning. What do the meritocrats want? Are they an important faction in my game? Obviously, they shouldn't be because they're in the Purple City and you got to get your players out of there. But if they were an example, there's plenty of examples just like this from later in the campaign, right?
And this isn't a problem. Like, again, there's a lot of, the reason why this doesn't bother me is that you get this in like a more detailed campaign setting book too, because there's always gaps, except you have to read a lot more, and it's a little bit harder for you to do your own filling in the blanks because there's a lot more canon for you to contend with. And that's what's cool about Ultraviolet Grasslands, right? Is you're encouraged to like make your stuff up, and Rejec has deliberately like not elaborated on all kinds of things so that you can fill in whatever you want, or mostly whatever you want about the meritocrats or the Emerald City or the spectrum satraps or the porcelain princes, so on and so forth. You are encouraged to do so, and it's easy because you've been given, I think, like a really great starting place and a lot of cool stuff to work with.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot on the small scale that works like this too, right? Oh, at this location is the dispenser of wisdom, a machine centipede with the face of a beautiful youth. It will give you wisdom in return for something, right? You either have to come up with like what kind of things it wants, read the examples, come up with a thing that connects to that dispenser of wisdom that like, oh, the players have to go here to get an answer, right? To make this meaningful. If you just read through this book and if you read these paragraphs like box text in a WotC adventure,
right,
then you're going to have a bad time because as is, everything is just, wow, that's a weird thing. Okay, I guess we'll get back in the caravan and move on, right?
Yeah.
No, you gotta do something with it.
Yeah, do something.
And
right.
Yeah.
And like, the right group will be like, well, I want to know more about the gigantic defense golems that protect the porcelain citadel from outsiders. Let's like find out more about that. Or they might, want to know more. They want to go up inside the near moon. But if they're not that type of player, then you are going to have to sort of like, give them a little push. It shouldn't be hard, but it is, it will require something from you.
No, I think what I'm saying is that, in my opinion, even if your players are the type of player where I will engage with any random thing, in order to make it meaningful, you're going to have to do some connecting between some of the things within a node and then to another node.
Sure.
Right? Like,
sure, sorry.
The dispenser of wisdom
No.
is sitting there just for you to add it into some emerging plot based on what your players were interested in. And yeah, you've got to give some of these things meaning because otherwise they're just weird, cool stuff.
No, I
agree.
I agree
to give
with
them
that.
meaning are there.
I'm just saying, like, there's technically no reason for the most part for any of your players to engage with any of this stuff. And again, I'm having trouble imagining a group that like wouldn't want to know more, but you may have to do until they begin to engage with and like get the vibe of the setting, give them a little help to explain like why this is interesting or why, what the value of engaging with a Lamarckian monstrosity or, a copse of Thornstone Shamblers is like, why, what's cool about this? Like, what's interesting? Like what's the greater connection or the greater interest, or if nothing else, the value of all this?
Yeah. I think there are like a number of ways to like get over this hump if you're unfamiliar with the play style, which is one, use the caravan rules and the like financier to see like you're in debt, you need to get out of debt. You can go here to make some money and then you can come back to here to make some more money. And then your first goal is to do that. And then once you're out in the grasslands, players start making discoveries and getting interested in other things. And then you build more quests out from that first quest type. I think the other way to play it is we're often talking about like how should you treat yourself as the game master as a player, right? And in this type of game, players are asked to come up with like things they're interested in and want to do in this weird science fantasy world, and you're kind of you should try and do the same thing, right? Take the things, because every node has more stuff than you could ever engage with that you're interested in, and connect them to other things and create factions. There are already factions here, but point those factions at one another and at other places to move your players throughout this kind of looping caravan system.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on basically kind of like what I was driving toward, which is I think if you're going to run this without a lot of modification, which I think you can, you should use the caravan system because it encourages engagement with all this weird stuff. You have to gather supplies, you have to make money, you have to seek out allies, you have to just get where you're going. And if you're escorting a caravan, if you're trying to make a profit, then suddenly it becomes a lot more important to pay attention to and engage with the world around you rather than ignore it on your way to, a dungeon crawl or a quest or something like that. And I think that's deliberate and by design, and one of like the really neat things about how this is loosely structured, but in a way that I think does promote a certain type of play.
Or the characters can just be on their way to the Black City to find the secrets of the demiurge that collapsed to ground when the fast stars fell, or something like that. And
I think this would be a great
run it that way, and that would be fun too.
I think if you wanted to do
it's not telling you what to do.
No, it's not telling you what to do. I think the caravan system is good. I think you should use it.
I absolutely agree.
It'd be great for a Canterbury Tales style of game. Like, just, you're on your way you're on the road to the Black Citadel or the Black City, and you're a bunch of people getting to know each other, and then suddenly you're an adventuring party.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Canterbury Tales would be great. There's also plenty of rules for if your character dies and you want to be a weird thing from beyond the civilized lands, from the Ultraviolet Grasslands, then you're going to have a lot of fun with that too. My inclination with my players is probably best to start them off as quasi-humans.
Right.
And let them get weirder from there.
Yeah. I mean, the setting sort of posits that there's a kind of an Egyptian Book of the Dead division of self. Like, there's a Ba, a Ka, and a Ha. There's your body, your soul, and your personality. And so there are entities that have been stripped of one or multiples of those. So there's Ba zombies, and there's Ka zombies, and there's various different types of death. Right? You can, if your soul is destroyed, but your physical vessel is left behind, then it's just kind of like a soulless automaton. But you can, like Matt said, as you die and or ascend or get weirder, there's a lot of really interesting rules for what might happen if you become a static ghost or something like that, and how you would engage with being a player at that point.
Yeah. I think it's I have no idea why these rules are in there, probably just because the author thinks they're cool, but I like to think it's as they played the first couple games or playtest of this and players kept interacting with things that killed part of them, they're like, right, let's make up some rules so you can keep playing this cool character in an even cooler way. And
I mean, there are rules in here for how to be a polybody, like one of those multiple consciousness. There's rules for how to play a VOME. I'm like, why would you put this in here? Why would you? I'm like, you're tempting fate, man.
I know,
My players are gonna see this and be like, I want to be like 6 bodies and an ancient consciousness, and then I'm gonna have to be like, all right. How do we run this? But I guess on the other hand,
this is how we say you start as a human,
right?
And yeah, sure, you're weird, you're psychic, and you have purple skin, but you're still a human. You got all 3 parts,
right?
But
I do
you
appreciate
want that. You need to go talk with the Purple Princess and see if they'll make you one.
I do appreciate the commitment to freedom, to explore all possibilities that this book gives you. I'm just like, man, can't believe you actually put this in the book. Some player's going to flip to the back and be like, oh, this is what I want.
Yeah, I would never give my players any part of this book. I would give them printouts from the PDF of pages that they might need. Yeah, it's interesting you read those criticisms. I did not read any criticisms of this book before the episode, and I have to think, I get this book is not for everyone. Not everyone is interested in an open-ended science fantasy point crawl, right? It's a very specific thing. But I think those people were probably interested in the concept. They just hadn't encountered a book that was willing to give them so much freedom as the game master for how they want to run it. They mistook that freedom for being like, well, there's just a bunch of weird stuff in here.
I wanted to address it because I'm trying to be open and sympathetic.
No, I think it's a good point. Yeah.
But I agree that I think maybe they misunderstood what the book was about. And that's why I mentioned reading and rereading it. I feel like if you you're going to have to put a little bit more effort into your initial look at this, but once you do, I think it's pretty clear what you're looking at. And I am having trouble imagining how you wouldn't know what you need to do to make this work. But if you're not careful and you just sort of like set out to run this without a little bit of extra prep, a little bit of extra engagement, then you are gonna obviously like run into trouble.
Yeah. I would say the last piece of advice that I have for this is, we've mentioned it a couple of times before, but I want to drive it home, is that like this is just a great source of inspiration, especially for science fantasy, but also for sci-fi where you're encountering weird tech. Like I've lifted some concepts out of this for my Star Trek campaign. It's also just great for fantasy because, again, science fantasy, just change the magitech to just magic. And it works just fine.
A lot of this stuff could be very easily reskinned or reflavored to be just straight fantasy or straight science. Like I said, I'm going to borrow pretty liberally for my Daggerheart game. I have ideas for like what I'd like to do with the caravan system someday. But this, even though I'm not going to run this like as written, this is one of the more valuable books to me that I have read in recent years. I do happen to be on like a long running science fantasy kick, so that's it's exactly in my wheelhouse. But it's also like it's well written and like full of like really useful ideas, and I think it gives like just enough structure and just enough rules to make it easy to adapt. Like I think if it was actually any lighter, it would be harder. But I think that what they've done is like strikes kind of like a perfect balance.
And speaking of borrowing from Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City, do not plagiarize from it, as in borrow whole tables and descriptions and then copy and paste them in your own published work for profit without citing those passages that you copied. I don't know if you saw this, but like a couple years ago, a book came out called Unconquered that stole huge sections from this book, along with from Vaults of Varn and maybe even some others. The creator, after some people had like after the rumors had went around, and then a blogger named Marisha B wrote a detailed blog post breaking down the plagiarism. The creator of the plagiarizing work, Unconquered, just disappeared, right? They had their own publishing
I had
thing,
forgotten all about this. Yeah, I remember when this happened, though.
It was very sad for the author, like, wrote a blog post about, like, hey, like, back when I was a young artist, someone, like, stole my shit, and it made me, like, quit art, and it sucked. And now that I'm, like, a successful creator, like, it's not setting me back, like, in my journey and value of myself as an artist, but it, like, still sucks. Like, hey, like, it's right there if you want to, like, quote my book and then say you quote my book, but you just stole it, and it makes everything worse when you do that. So anyway, that was a steal from this book for your games. Steal inspiration for your published games, but then cite your stuff. Don't lift
steal.
tables. Yeah, don't just steal.
Yeah. I guess like it just goes to show how influential and successful this book is. But also, like, I remember when this happened. It's so weird. I can't believe this is a very popular. I mean, it's niche, but it's very popular. I just can't believe that they would think nobody would notice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This keeps happening, and I'm just like, I don't know. Some people.
It's very
anyway, in case you can't tell,
this book is awesome, and I think the last thing we have to talk about is the Black City itself. Rob's giving me the motion to wrap it up.
I wasn't giving you any motion.
We don't have time to talk about the Black City? No, that's fine.
You're reading into things.
I'm doing a bit, Rob.
You're doing a bit.
We're gonna leave the Black City for people who actually want to read the book.
That's right. Sorry, I was about to get all excited.
Yeah.
I know, Rob, you really do gotta read. You got to read about the Black City yourself. Yeah. It's great because it's not really like the point of the point crawl. It is the end. It's literally the end of the world, sort of metaphysically, but also like literally, but it isn't actually like the point. Anyway, read the book, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Especially because I imagine this will have a higher number of listeners who might also want to, like, play in this. I think discovering the Black City is is it works. We're going to leave it in our review just as the book leaves it for most of it. That tantalizing thing at the end of the path.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City 2nd edition.
I mean, I think that if you are like us, just a GM that is always looking for new ideas, looking for tools, even if this isn't something that you specifically want to run or a setting or an aesthetic that you like, it's 100% worth getting. I know not everybody has the money to throw at something like Ultraviolet Grasslands. If you get it on sale or for cheap, go for it. If this is even remotely in your wheelhouse, if you are interested in science fantasy, if you want to run a caravan game, if you like weird Mobius art, then this is well worth your time and money. Like we said at the beginning, this is also a work of art. This was enjoyable to read and look at. It's nice to have on your shelf. So comes with my highest recommendations.
Linked in the show notes, Ultraviolet Grasslands, the PDF only is $30. The PDF plus the hardcover print, which is huge and colorful and printed on nice paper. It's well worth it if you like hardcovers. Is only $50. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. It might be my favorite OSR book, and it's definitely the best point crawl I've ever read. If you want to learn how to run a point crawl or how to create one, learn from the best.
Yeah, it's really good, folks. Really, really good.
Well, thanks for listening. If you have other recommendations for OSR stuff, OSE stuff, point crawls, cool adventure books, if you liked UVG, send us a letter at dmofnone@gmail.com.
If you liked this, you want to hear more, so much more, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. We have more reviews, more content. And yeah, if there's anything else like this that you want us to cover, we have a list longer than we will ever possibly get to, but we are still taking suggestions and recommendations. And so let us know. Hope this was useful to you. Thanks for listening, like Matt said, and keep rolling them dice.